So, the other day I had floated in my community tab about the idea of ship upgrades. I wanted to know what you guys thought, what upgrades you would want, and generally it seems like people like the idea, and they had their own ideas. Hello, Tuna. And I like your ideas, and I gotta say, I got some ideas that you didn't think of that I hope you're gonna enjoy. Do note, I think that certain things are going to be, let's say, if ship upgrades ever get implemented, certain things will still be left behind for new types of ships rather than an upgrading of ships. So, larger sized or different sized ships with, let's say, different handling, different speeds to a degree, larger base HP to a degree, like turn radius and certain things like hauling tamed animals or having a certain amount of cover, maybe like an area to get rested. I think those will all be like different types of ships. And I mean, looking at the Ashlands teasers, I think there might be a different type of ship that will allow you to sail on lava rivers. I think that would be cool. It would be a really interesting and really exciting way to sail. Now, for the actual upgrades, you guys thought of some classic things. One of my friends said anchor. So when you're on a ship, even if the sails are up and you're not really controlling anything, it will still move slightly. So if you wanted to stay in one place for any reason, or just sailing, the anchor would be a good idea. Would cost probably a bunch of iron or something, but that's fine because I mean it's something to spend it on. I've got so much iron, and I think that would be a good thing for fishing, especially. Speaking of a good thing for fishing, a fish net. So a lot of people said fish net may be something to haul in the water behind you. It could vary in size with carve and long ship. This thing might be made out of like linen thread, so might be something to get in the later game, although technically linen thread is smack dab in the middle once we're going to have all 9 biomes fleshed out, so that's fine. Fishnet, that's pretty cool. A lot of people said like upgraded like health in terms of shield walls, so shields on the longships, on the carves. I think that would be great. I think that being able to style them individually would be nice. Maybe give it more armor or more just raw HP. Either one would be good. Maybe you could also change it to serpent scale shields. I wouldn't say the cost would be 100% for like, okay, it takes the exact cost of like 10 to 12 shields. It would probably be a lot less than that, and they would just be stylized for convenience sake. I think that would be better balancing. It would take a lot to get all that serpent scale and iron. I mean, it'd be worth it because Desquitos are dangerous, and they fly, and they deal pierce damage. So if you got a pierce resistant boat, that would be cool. Something else interesting could be a fire-resistant boat. I think that's probably coming in the Ashlands with probably a new type of charred wood. So, no more yawl danger, although it's kind of late for that, you know? Once you get to the Ashlands, you're already not finding yawl terribly threatening. But it's there. I mean, it's an option. Something that I really like that somebody also mentioned could be a mountable ballista. So you mount a ballista, probably be on a longship, and then while your boat is hanging out around the base or at a dock, one particular thing, let's say throughout the game, various flyers, so drakes, although by the time you get a ballista, it would be yawl and seekers, so you'd probably be yawl, because you'd have walls high enough for seekers, so just grab a yawl trophy, go over to the ballista, set it up for ballista hates yawl, and then your boat would be pretty chillin', you know? Of course, the ballista would have to have a higher vertical tracking because right now, if the yawl is like right above the ship, or just like high enough above the ship with a decent angle, the ballista's not going to be doing too much. So it's going to be tricky, and it would have to have some adjustments, but I think it could work. Especially it could work facing the backside. So if people are facing the front end and they have that covered, the ballista can cover the back end. That would be very nice. Let's see. One of my classic ideas, early ship upgrades, is the ground gouger. So this would be something made with antler pickaxe, or not antler pickaxe, hard antlers from Eikthyr. So you'd have to kill him again, which is fine. And then you would upgrade it. You could upgrade it in the carve in the longship through bronze, iron, black metal, all of that. And what it would do is literally just have a large amount of pickaxe damage that would be dependent on the speed that you're going. So let's say this rock here, you're sailing, you're going, you see these low rocks, you got the ground gouger on, you just crash right through them, your boat doesn't take any damage, you just destroy the rocks. You got shallow waters, maybe this is a little too shallow, boom, pickaxe the whole thing through and your boat just goes right through. And it makes future sailing on a route, let's say you got a very shallow area on a route, like I did in my community server, wow, just blowing right through that shallow area and carving it up for future use would be very convenient. Very, 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 very convenient. Something like that could also be very good for damaging leeches, maybe, or anything else that wants to go below the boat. But what about you want to fight something that might be above the water a little bit? Not too high like the ballista, not too low like the ground gouger. Well, this is where I have the bark piercer, and this would be just literally a giant spike that would come out of the longship. It'd be made out of metal, so you'd start off with some iron, and you could end up going silver, black metal, what have you. This thing could be really good at ramming serpents. Or maybe the downside of it is that you could actually aggro a leviathan. You know, right now you can't aggro those things. What happens if you stabbed one with a giant spike? Might get a little mad. That would be an interesting encounter. That would be super fascinating to see, you know? Might be real terrifying in the best of ways. But yeah, I think what that also be good for is paired with the ground gouger. You'd ram that up onto land. Let's say you have a fulling camp right on the shore. You'd go right up and slam into that with the bark piercer, get some huge damage in on, say, like a Lox or a fulling berserker. Really, really interesting times. And then everybody in your group would jump out and charge, and that would be a lot of fun. It would be so much fun. One of my favorite ideas is the ghost sail. So right now, if you are sailing, it's really hard if you have control over the rudder to see much while you're sailing. The sails are up, and it's hard to see anything. But, let's say you have transparent, ghostly sails that still function. Let's say this thing costs 1 Wraith Trophy, and a bunch of ectoplasm, which would be a new drop from the ghosts in the burial chambers. So let's say 5 ectoplasm, 1 Wraith Trophy, and it would be a spectral sail that you could not only see through, but shoot projectiles through. Now, the downside would be, hey, enemies can also shoot projectiles through as well, and that would be great. Let me see if I can shoot a projectile through right now. Probably can, right? Yes. But you can't see through it. Okay, so seeing through it, that would be the biggest thing. You see through it. Of course, shooting projectiles through it would have a nice visual effect. Better than just looking like it phases through a solid sail and not tearing any holes through it. It could maybe tear holes through it that are temporary, and then they close the ghost sail closes back around it. I think that would be a beautiful way of almost having your own style of ghost ship. Yeah, right now it's very like the longship is themed after like serpents in a way with this figurehead. Let's also talk about this figurehead and lighting. So one of my ideas, which was actually pretty well received on the Valheim Discord and the suggestions a few months back, is glowing eyes on the figurehead that would shoot out in a cone of light in front of you. Maybe this could be customized to uh, expand your rate of discovery for the map. So when you're sailing around, you know when if somebody's checking the map or if you're checking the map, you can see when there's plains or just a dangerous biome ahead of time, so that you can easily slow down, turn around, change course, not go into that dangerous biome. I think that would be something that I would call forest sight. It would cost a bunch of gray dwarf eyes, and you'd be able to see very far. It'd have a nice blue glow just like the gray dwarf eyes, and you'd be able to see nice and far in a cone. But what about if you want a larger radius? Well, that's where the hanging lantern comes in. So everybody loves the nice little Dverger lantern. It looks especially nice when I'm holding fast right here. Look at that. Beautiful. And we all kind of wish we had a nice lantern. Maybe a lantern over here by the mast. Maybe a lantern hanging off high on the mast of the carve or the longship. And that also could provide light in a good radius for sailing at night. That would be, of course, useful because radius expanding outward 360 degrees would help you out from all angles, but to a lesser range than, say, the cone of the glowing eyes. Same thing about the forest sight would apply, would change the color of the lantern to blue, and you would be able to explore and discover more of the map in a radius around you. So turning around, changing course quickly, you'd be able to tell if there was a dangerous biome nearby. I think they would both be useful in their own ways. But let's talk about upgrades to those upgrades. So, we know that sailing at night is pain. That's why we have the beautiful lights that I mentioned. What about sailing in the fog? And here's where I have the thing called Worm Sight. And that would be an upgrade to your lantern and or your lovely figurehead glowing eyes. That would be fog diminishing. Get rid of the fog, just like the Wisplight does with the mist. It would get rid of it in a certain radius or cone, depending on which one you got. And it would change the color again. So this time, I think it would be like Drake trophies, and it would be a change in style for the figurehead, and then it would be a little bit of a more intense blue for the hanging lantern and the eyes. I think that would work wonderfully because sailing at night in fog, painful. Really painful, terribly awful. I hate it. It would be nice to put in the resources, put in the work, upgrade your ship, and be able to counter that a little bit. Now, the last thing, I mentioned it before about clearing the mist. What about Wisp Sight? So, you have wisps, you put in your wisps, probably have something else, but most likely just a bunch of wisps, and then that would clear the mist while you sail too. It would be really good for helping you see any creatures nearby, because sailing into the mistlands right now, it's kind of terrifying and not a good way to hold on to your longship mats as much, especially going into the misted areas. Your boat is weak to fire, and the yawls are lurking, so having a mist clearing thing would be super wonderful. Now, I do have unique options, a final upgrade to have unique purposes for the figurehead and the lantern. So the figurehead, I have the let's see. It is a Serpent's Terror, and then in the Ashlands, the Dragon's Breath. So the Serpent's Terror, of course, you put a serpent trophy on there, and it would change the style of the figurehead once more. But you could also intimidate creatures. Maybe you intimidate a serpent. Maybe you intimidate a bunch of Fullings, like you're sailing right up, and you got a Fulling camp, and the Fullings are all crowded around you, and that's no good. But maybe your ship is extra scary, and they wander off. They run away, and you chase after them. Of course, it only affects a certain radius, but it would be really fun to see all of the enemies flee from you and not just gang up on your boat and destroy it immediately. That would be awful, especially if your boat's loaded into storage with all sorts of mats. Now for the lantern, I would love to have a Siren's Call. So your lantern would glow a different way, and it would be the exact opposite of the Serpent's Terror. So instead of scaring enemies away, it would draw enemies towards you, like serpents, like Fullings, like maybe leeches. It would also draw fish, perhaps. That would be a super cool thing. Maybe it would cost some Dvergr lanterns, I don't know. You know what would definitely cost some Dvergr lanterns? The final upgrade for the hanging lantern that I have, which is the Missile, which would be literally another term of another way of defending your boat. It would be sending a missile, just like the Dvergr lantern mages, the healers. They can summon the little pink orb, and it can home in on enemies and then kamikaze itself. Yeah, that would be a nice little light. That would be a cool thing. Like I always want it for the staff. I love the Dvergr lantern. I love the style of it, and I really want that staff. But also having this homing projectile for sailing would be really nice, especially considering terrible wind. If you are having trouble handling the ship, having a homing projectile that you can just release from a lantern would be super nice. You know, the lantern could home in on something lurking in the fog. Ooh, maybe you have one thing on, like you have your cone from the figurehead that clears out area in front of you, but there's something off to the side that you can't see. Maybe you deploy the missile, and then you see where it's going, and then you loose all of your arrows and bolts and spells in that direction, and it seems like it would be a good thing. It would be high cost, it would take some Eider, but that would be great. You know what else would cost Eider? The Dragon's Breath, which I mentioned before. That would probably also be some Ashlands materials, but you would be able to trigger this figurehead to breathe smoke and fire. And it would cause damage, but the smoke would be able to create somewhat of a smoke screen. So you could lose tough enemies like serpents or y'all in the smoke. You could sail away from them. You could pop motor power and be like, I'm out, I'm gone. Or any other future terrifying enemies. I think that would be really cool. It would also be very nice to just sail up to something like Fulling Camp or what have you, a future iteration of that, maybe mobs on the shore that you want to fight. You run up, you hit him with the Bark Piercer, and then you Dragon's Breath, and then you're coming out of the sneak, get your Crom middle mouse, your Skull and Hottie middle mouse, and you just demolish them. It would make stealth so much fun. It's like, yes, they're, you know, we don't have the element of surprise because we're ramming them, except now we do. Because we're using the Dragon's Breath. It's like, that sounds so cool. I love it. The final thing that I would like, this would also cost Eider, would be Eider Oars. And this thing would just help you maneuver a little bit better. Increase the base speed of your boat just a little bit, but definitely help maneuvering against the wind and help your turn radius significantly. It would cost a significant amount of Eider and some nice Yggdrasil wood, but it would be worth it. Now, that's it for this video. I'd like to thank everybody for contributing to the community post when I made that a few days ago. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my ideas. If you have any of your own ideas, please comment them. And if you have any ideas of what these later ones recipes could be, I stopped giving recipes. Some of these things, I don't really know what they would cost other than the base material. If you have any ideas to flesh them out, also let me know. And I will see you guys some other time. Here's hoping we get new ships and or ship upgrades in the future. Bye bye!